see, a lot of time we try and we fail, and it's very common. And the family has to be there. Family cannot blame the child or adolescent or individual that you have failed and you lost so much of money and you never listened to us. Rather than that time supporting and be a patient listener and helping him to overcome this crisis, we become more critical and giving them a more derogatory thing, and which lead to a crisis in adolescent and they go in a wrong direction.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our last episode for this season on taking care of your mental health with Tulasi Healthcare. We are continuing our discussion on adolescent mental health and discussing a little bit more about the social pressures we face during this time. We once again have our experts, Dr. Gaurav Gupta and Dr.
Hello.
Vidhavi, with us here today. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you for asking. So, let's dive in. So first we can discuss a little bit about families' expectations regarding marriage during this time. It's a very common pressure people face. How can they deal with it? What are they supposed to do during this time?
Right, so adolescence and marriage is something that is a recent development that I have seen in my professional life. So usually around the age of 18, 19, maybe 20 also these days, a lot of parents are putting pressure on their kids for early marriages now. A lot of times when kids come at that age with that pressure, usually the explanation that parents end up giving is that the earlier that they get married, the more stable they will become, the more better off they will become. But is all of that actually true? It's quite a doubt that a lot of people face. Also, along with all of this, when we talk about that pressures within adolescence itself, like we discussed in the previous episode itself about a lot of changes. So this age itself is an age where kids are not just going through bodily, hormonal or mental changes, but even a lot of career related changes are already happening. So at that point, handling all of these marriage related pressures is something that will add on more pressure rather than relieving that pressure. So, in my professional opinion, I would rather suggest that if kids are more stable off both mentally, emotionally, and even career wise, that is a better age to have that marriage related pressure rather than that early on age. So, maybe families can think about all of these perspectives before pressurizing kids as young as 18, 19, or 20 before moving towards that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So marriage is in our society is kind of a norm. It's more like that everyone has to be married and we should have a stable relationship, marriage and kids and all those things. डेफिनेटली बहुत सारे चेंजेस हो रहे हैं सोसाइटी में. सो अगर हम देखें लिटरेसी रेट बढ़ रहा है, इंटरनेट पेनिट्रेशन बढ़ रहा है, एंड बहुत सारे लोग अब मैरिज के लिए नहीं सोच रहे हैं. वेस्टर्न सोसाइटी की तरह लिव इन रिलेशनशिप, लॉन्ग कोर्टशिप, why to have a child, should we have a child or not, one child, two child, there are a lot of kind of a confusion in there. डेफिनेटली पेरेंट्स के लिए तो सीधा सीधा है, पढ़ाई करो, बच्चे को कैरियर बनाओ, शादी कर दो, and then they are kind of a responsibility is over. But actually it's not. That is one of the ways. So a good communication before any major decision is important. So the issue is that parents lot of time take very firm stand and not openly discuss the issue. So discussion तो करना चाहिए, और डिस्कशन करके एक जो भी मतलब चाइल्ड इज नॉट ए ऑब्जेक्ट विच कैन बी शेयर्ड फ्रॉम योर हाउस टू अदर हाउस. चाइल्ड इज ए ह्यूमन बीइंग, इंडिपेंडेंट थिंकिंग, इंडिपेंडेंट डेवलपमेंट, एंड मैरिज इज वन ऑफ द थिंग्स मे बी चाइल्ड एग्री टू at different stages and disagree to. Maybe a child also has their own inspirations and requirement. Maybe the parents are feeling that a marriage will solve the problem. Maybe marriage creates lot new problem than actually solving the problem. Now marriage के बाद sex is a issue, marriage के बाद in-laws is a issue, marriage के बाद career is a issue, everything changes. So considering that, I think a more mature, thoughtful way of dealing the whole this social scenario is a much better approach. Definitely, जैसे जैसे education better होती जा रही है, there are more maturity, more differences, and marriage is not becoming that priority. हम लोग सोचते हैं career settle हो जाए. Maybe few of us are anxious. See, Vanshika, there is a very new thing which is becoming is we are openly talking about gender and identification. Lot of us are towards homosexuality, lesbian, and all those kind of a thing, or the same sexual relationship, and maybe they are refusing for marriage because of that reason. And we see a lot of conflict at that age. Like, means every year I see few kids who come where the parents are forcing and they are behaving very abnormally because their sexual orientation is different. So we are living in a very transformed society and we are no more a traditional Indian thing. We are a grown up economy, grown up intellectually, grown up career wise, and I think the whole system has to mature and become equipped to that, and that would be a change which is required, which is known as generation gap or maturity. And I think it's time for parents also become not treating a child like an object and make the very stringent social norm. Rather make more flexible, communicable norms and openly share about the things which will make things more smooth.
So like you're saying, Dr. Gupta, we're moving away from the traditional values in a sense. We're also exploring new things. People are more exposed to different kinds of social scenarios. We talked about career and development. A significant problem people face is that families and parents sort of expect adolescents to go into safe careers, where they know there is a stability. But people want to try something new. So how can they sort of move forward in that direction?
So, career is that career we are doing in terms of earning some money. But simultaneously, career, what we want to do, it's a choice. It's not purely a financial transaction. And if you don't like something, how can you continue doing same thing for prolonged period or extended period of time? Like I see a lot of my friends who became a specialist into something which they never wanted to. And it's painful. It's horribly wrong and they keep all the time brooding, complaining, stressed and continuing. Considering that, I think it should be done with the choices. It should be done with a lot of freedom. And if you do it out of choice and freedom, then more chances are there that you are going to be successful and take it forward in a right way. Now, definitely, traditionally, like we were young, the parents used to say either become engineer or a doctor. Then they used to say, okay, you go for a government job, go do this. But now things are different. It's not that everyone who's gone in a traditional way is the most rich or most successful. Now these days we see a lot of startup cultures and the government is talking about that is going to drive the economy. That means the youngsters and adolescent has to have the freedom to have a startup.
Right.
So I think they have to open up and be more aware about the things than forcing in a traditional way, because the whole generation has moved. Thankfully, we are more internet savvy and more digitally inclined population than a traditional population. We are not living in a village. All of us are well connected and internet is available even in the smallest town or village of India. So we have to be very open and take decisions accordingly.
Would you like to add something?
Absolutely. So, what I feel professionally is that there are two ways to how this situation is currently panning out in the country. One side, of course, is where kids are being allowed to explore, allowed to make their own choices, and they're actually doing very wonderfully well. The other side, of course, is that kids are experimenting a lot, and because they don't have much support, there is a lot of failure, and also there is a lot of wrong side of experimentation itself. So I've had a lot of kids or clients or parents also for that matter, where kids have changed a lot of streams without actually having to tell at home. So then that becomes a very problematic area. And once the parents eventually get to know, then they will have adverse reactions. They will start to get angry. There'll be a lot of family related fights that will happen at home. So the easier thing to do, one of course, is to let your adolescent choose. Let your adolescent explore and let your adolescent adjust to whichever branch they want to. Second part, of course, is that government is in current times promoting all of this new exploration. So a lot of the kids, what they see in today's day and age is that a lot of internet-based jobs, for example, social media influencers, is also actually very well off as far as payment or financial transactions are concerned. So there is no harm in that exploration as long as that exploration is backed by family, supported by family, and also the adolescent is allowed to make those choices. But of course, that support is very much that is required, and that conversation needs to be done in the family side.
So I would just add one more angle. See, a lot of time we try and we fail, and it's very common. And the family has to be there. Family cannot blame the child or adolescent or individual that you have failed and you lost so much of money and you never listened to us. Rather than that time supporting and be a patient listener and helping him to overcome this crisis, we become more critical and giving them a more derogatory thing and which lead to a crisis in adolescent and they go in a wrong direction, they end up drinking, abusing, or they get a lot of negative thoughts and psychological problems. So of course, they have to encourage them not only try, but also encourage them to learn to fail and take a new path. So life is all about experimenting and trying and failing and retrying, and that's how the life is. And I would encourage them that they should be patient, they should help them to overcome the crisis and maybe then guide them again that okay, why don't you try our point of view, maybe you like this, and that become encouraging.
True. So, as for our discussion with a lot of larger life problems and changes in generation and culture, there's also a lot of like simple, small day-to-day problems that families face with young adults and adolescents in terms of eating habits and lifestyle and sleep cycles, music, dressing sense. Can you help us understand this change and dealing with it a little better?
So definitely I would say that means especially after COVID, Vanshika, there is a whole lot of social change we are observing. The kids who used to leave house now are forced into staying the house and they developed a habit of being in the house. There was a time where the phone used to start or they used to have their own phone at the age of 17, 18, 19, but now even the young kids have their phone.
True.
Definitely all that lead to a premature exploration, premature maturity, premature knowing lot of things which parents never allowed their child to know. And ये सब होने के बाद मतलब how can we control that you should eat only this with the time of Zomato and Swiggy where they can order any food 24/7. Now if a parcel is coming at 2 a.m., the father is saying, what the hell, why you are eating anything now? Why can't you have the food at the time where I am eating? But the child says, no, I don't want to eat that, I want to order something. So definitely there are positives and negatives, and there is no perfect solution for these kind of a problem. But having a good communication, making them understand your point of view is the only thing I would say. So eating habits, sleeping habits, having the relationship, the kind of a friend you should have, the kind of a career, the kind of a book you should read. So there are a lot of these conflict we keep hearing, and it's very common. Like a lot of parents come and say that he doesn't get up in the morning, he sleeps during the day, he gets up only in the evening. Definitely, what we are grown up, that is the ideal phenomena. But I think in the current worldly scenario, we see a lot of kids are working with US time, UK time, and internationally things have kind of broken those boundaries and time schedules. So it's worthwhile to accept all this and get more mature. Definitely, Indian economy is dependent economy. Rather, the world is one place. So we have to more accepting the values of other systems and other societies than keeping ourselves completely aloof and isolated. Imagine your children who is performing well and gets selected in one of the top universities, and there he sees that nobody is eating dal, chawal or roti, and he will be in a state of shock that how can I have pizza? What is this crap? So I think maturing and preparing them for the newer society is a good thing, and I think that will lead to a lot of good situation. And let's have a good communication. So at least you know why your child is doing and what he is doing, and give him a good, secure, safe, psychological environment. So mentally they are more strong and they are not going in a thing which is causing a lot of risk or danger to them.
How about you, Dr. Madhavi?
Right. So there are two sides, I think, to this change that adolescents are essentially having. One, of course, COVID is one of the biggest reasons how that change came about. Second, also, I feel that in a lot of clients that I have seen, a lot of parents have become very averse to this change. So they've one method, of course, is that parents are objecting to everything. The other is that they can go with the flow, they can have the conversation, and they can create that safe, secure space for the child to not just explore but even express or live that experience itself. Right. So one side, of course, is that, like Sir said, that having that communication, of course, is one aspect of it. The second is that if that communication is not reaching the child, then maybe breaking that communication and helping the child is a much better way. Also, along with all of this, kids in today's day and age are exploring in their own ways and methods. So maybe just putting, not saying that completely removing all those explorations is the way out, but maybe limiting the number of explorations is what is required. Right? So let's say if they're experimenting with 20 things, then maybe instead of 20, then 17 or 15 explorations should be the limit. So maybe helping them with those explorations and helping them adjust to the changing times is what is required in the current times. So even the parents need to accept that sometimes just going with the flow is all that is required, rather than becoming the hindrance or creating the hindrance in that child's life.
Okay, so I think if I understand correctly, let's summarize into the main topics, which is adjusting to these changes, providing good communication, and having that safe space for your children and your family to sort of progress into the new kind of culture we're growing into.
Absolutely.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Gupta and Dr. Vidhavi, for being with us here today. So that concludes our last episode of this season, Taking Care of Your Mental Health. If you liked our video, please share, subscribe, or leave a review. Until then, please take care of your mental health, and we'll see you again. Thank you.